Invite John to read the summons of the meeting, members' attendance, and apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Council, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically here in the Council chamber on today, Wednesday, 18th of December at 2 o'clock. And starting members with the roll call, Alderman Cook.
Online, John.
Alderman Guy.
Here, John.
Alderman Hussey.
Aye.
Alderman Kerrigan.
John Root.
Alderman McMorris.
Here.
Alderman Middleton.
Here, John, online.
Alderman Montgomery.
Here.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Online, John.
Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Lillian Barr.
Yeah, John.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Online, John.
Councillor Boggs.
Sure, John.
Councillor Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Cusick.
Here.
Councillor Deeney.
And Shaw online.
Councillor Devine.
And Shaw.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy.
And Shaw.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher.
Shaw.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
And Shaw.
Councillor Heaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
Come late.
Councillor Jackson.
Shaw.
Councillor Leonard.
Shaw.
Councillor Logue.
Shaw.
Councillor McDade.
Apologies.
Councillor McGinley.
Shaw.
Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney.
Here.
Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris.
Apologies.
Councillor O'Farrell.
Shaw.
Councillor Riley.
Here, John.
Councillor Tierney.
Here, John.
Councillor Neelis.
And Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, John. Next agenda item is broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeating viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website. Okay, any declaration of members' interest? No? Okay, moving on to agenda 5, chairperson's business. I received only one item from Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. As I speak, more than 45,000 men, women and children have been confirmed dead in Gaza. Many thousands more are missing, presumed dead. Israel's decision to close our embassy in Dublin is a distraction tactic and an attempt to block the upholding of international law. The EU must now follow the actions of Ireland and suspend the EU-Israel Association Agreement, ensuring that sanctions are enforced and international law is upheld. Can I propose that Council write to the newly elected Concordia, requesting that the new Dáil prioritise the passing of the Occupied Territories Bill? Thank you, Chair.
Members, can I ask if there's anybody who would like to comment? Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thank you to the Councillor for raising this today. I plan to do it myself. I think it is a very welcome thing that the Israeli government has decided to shut down their embassy. This is an embassy for genocide, and it should have been shut down by the Irish government a long, long time ago. In fact, our council was one of the first councils in this island that passed a motion agreeing that the Israeli embassy should be shut down. We've had more than a year now of a genocide, and Israel's war has extended beyond the borders of Palestine now into Lebanon, into Syria and beyond. And Israel is very clearly the greatest danger to people who live in the Middle East. So I think that in addition to supporting the immediate passage of the Occupied Territories Bill, I think we also have to say that some of the commentary that has come from supporters of the Israeli apartheid state, that Irish people are anti-Semitic because of our solidarity with Palestine, has to be condemned and rejected. This is not about anti-Semitism, as everybody knows. This is because we have witnessed over the last year and a half the slaughter of Palestinians, the slaughter of Palestinian children, the slaughter of Palestinian babies. And we know that no matter what the representatives of the Israeli occupation forces say about not wanting Gaza and not wanting to stay there, that their project is about ethnic cleansing, because that is what's happening right across the Gaza Strip right now and in the West Bank. I think we have to do everything we can as a council, as members know, to speak up for Palestine. And I think in the new year, I think that we have to make a concerted push to make sure and to do everything we can to make sure that our council and our council area becomes an apartheid-free zone. And I look forward to meeting with representatives from BDS Strabane and also the deputation from the IPSC in January to discuss what practical steps we can take as a council to forward that. But I fully support the motion, and I think that I hope that more states now shut down their embassies, and I hope that this sends a loud message to the US government, who have funded this slaughter, that this has to end and it can't continue, that their complicity must end as soon as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Before I bring you in, I need some clarification from Councillor Murphy. What was your proposal?
That the council write to the newly elected Ceann Comhairle, requesting that the new Dáil prioritise the passing of the Occupied Territories Bill.
You email that, please.
Yes.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Murphy for raising this issue and giving us an opportunity to speak on it. I, like Councillor Harkin, in many ways welcome the decision by the Israeli government, but I think the decision that we all wish to welcome is the ending of the genocide in the Middle East. And I think the sooner that they come and make that decision, the better for everyone across the world. I also note, like Councillor Harkin, some of the comments that I have seen in social media channels and on the media around Irish people's opinion on what's going on. And the suggestion that Irish people are anti-Semitic, in my view, is absolutely wrong. I think they're pro-peace and pro-ceasefire. And I think, as an Irish person, that's a very proud position to have. And I don't think that we should allow the voices on social media to take us away from the strong position that we as a council have held, and we as a nation have dragged the government to. And I think that's very, very important. I listened to supporters of the Israeli regime on the radio yesterday, and they were suggesting all kinds of things that Ireland had done to justify the closing or the removal of the ambassador. And I actually thought about it and thought, you know, when this comes to pass, it is my strong view that Ireland and the Irish people will be on the right side of history. And I think that's important. We will be on the side as a nation who, from the very outset, spoke up for peace, spoke up to stop the slaughter of innocent people. And as I said already, Madam Mayor, for me, that's an incredibly proud position to take as an entire nation. And I think that's something, a very, very strong message. And I think that message has got through to the Israeli government. And I think that's why they've taken this action. We are happy to support the proposal from Councillor Murphy, should it come before the floor today. And the sooner that we do see the passing of the bill and more action to demand a ceasefire in the Middle East, in our view, the better. That's been our position from the very start. It hasn't changed, won't change. The best thing that anyone can do in relation to the conflict in the Middle East is to do whatever they can to make sure that there's a ceasefire and make sure that there's peace and make sure that innocent people stop being murdered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, I do not see anybody else indicating to speak on this issue. Okay. Have you seen the motion?
Just to let you know, we're abstaining on this here as usual. Yeah.
Indicated to speak? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, just we're going to be abstaining on it.
Oh, you're abstaining.
Take a
Okay.
vote or whatever.
Abstaining? Okay. I haven't actually received a seconder for that proposal. Thank you. Okay. Seconded by. Is there anybody who is voting against the proposal? Okay. So DUP, UUP abstaining, and everyone else is for the proposal, right? Okay. Thank you, members. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 6, confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, 20th November 2024, pages 5 to 26 for accuracy. Members, for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Any matters arising? Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to come in under C49524 on page 12. The point is about violence against women and girls. I would like, with respect, Mayor and members, just if we can just remember for a moment, Karen Cummings from Banbridge, who was brutally murdered in this last couple of days. I know we see a lot of statistics, and Karen's the 25th lady since 2020. And I know I have mentioned statistics in the past as well, but what we must always remember behind each one of these statistics is a woman or a girl who has been so brutally murdered, and we must, and that's the point, we must always remember that this is somebody's daughter, somebody's sister. And in this case, Karen was a mother of 2. So we must, no matter what the statistics say, we must always remember that there is an actual person behind these. So I would also like to acknowledge that there seems to have been a fast response to this from the PSNI, and 2 men have been charged. And this type of urgent response from PSNI is always required at any times whenever domestic violence and coercive control has been reported. There never, ever has been any excuse for domestic violence against women and girls, and there never, ever can be. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Boggs.
Margaret, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Leonard for that, first of all. Just under C493/24 in relation to Strabane Town Centre, I hate to bring this up again, but having received a very distressing phone call yesterday from a constituent, I think it's important to raise the ongoing issue of disruption and noise that is being caused by some erratic and careless drivers in Strabane Town Centre, particularly at night time, but also now as early as 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the distressing phone call that I received yesterday was from a parent with a very, very vulnerable son, with complex additional needs, with very serious mental health condition, who is kept as basically a prisoner in his own home because of the disruption and the level of noise that is being caused by people who are using parts of Strabane Town Centre and other residential areas as a rally track. I know that council car parks are being used as part of this. I know that officers have been working really hard with both the BID team and with the PSNI to try and get some resolution, but that hasn't been forthcoming so far. And I suppose just whenever I'm making these remarks, I'm not advocating that any action, direct action by council in relation to the car park would solve the issue, because in my view, all it would do was move it on to another area, as we've seen in recent times, where if these people can't access a car park within the town centre, they move to a residential area, and that causes further disruption and distress for residents there. That's a young lad in his own home who is feeling the very brunt of what these people are doing. And I know people have hobbies and people have interests in cars, maybe one of them. But when it gets to the stage where people's lives are literally being disrupted and disturbed and annoyed because of the actions of some, I think it is important to call it out and ask those that are involved to recognise what they're doing and to desist from it. And just to commend and ask officers to continue engaging with the BID team and with the PSNI where possible to try and come to a resolution. But also that the PSNI ought to do more. And if resourcing is an issue within Strabane PSNI or Derry City and Strabane PSNI to tackle the issue in Strabane, then that also needs sorted. But on the mouth of Christmas, when there is a mother nearly in tears on the other end of the phone, worrying about what kind of Christmas they're going to have because their son is living as a prisoner in their own home, it needs to be called out. And I would really strongly, in the strongest possible terms, ask and plead those people that are involved to desist from the activity that they're taking part in and be more mindful of those who have to live in that area that they're causing such disruption in.
Thank you, Councillor Bog. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to raise the issue of the winter fuel payment. It's 4C499/24. And obviously we're heading into the holiday season right now, and also the coldest part of the year. And we do know that we have disproportionate levels of fuel poverty across the north. And we also know that that many older people have lost access to the winter fuel payment, and it's causing them a lot of stress. It means that many of them are going to bed colder, and many of them are worried about how they're going to get through the winter. And I wanted to report that one of our demands, which we made on the DFC minister, they have now belatedly agreed to, which is to carry out an equality impact assessment of the loss of universal access for people of pension age to the winter fuel payment. This was quietly launched on December 9th by the Department for Communities, a consultation on the winter fuel payment and the loss of access, universal access. I think it's very frustrating that this is only being announced in the aftermath of the cut when it should have been done beforehand. The Stormont executive should never have went along with the Starmer government by immediately just saying they're going to cut the winter fuel payment, and now we're going to have an equality impact assessment. The only reason we're having this impact assessment, in my opinion, is because of the campaign that people have done across the north, and the pressure that is on the department and the executive around this issue. I also believe it's because of Unite's legal action that they have taken to the British government on the issue of the fact that the British government didn't do an equality impact assessment either. So, Mayor, I would like us to, as a council, engage with this consultation. We passed a motion outlining our opposition to this cut. We also called for the winter fuel payment to be reinstated. I think that we need to speak for the residents across our council district that are impacted by this. I know that there is an agreed mitigation of £17 million. My understanding is that nobody is getting this at the minute, and it's going to take a while for that to work through the system, which doesn't help anybody that is struggling with their energy bills right now. But I think it's important that we, as a council, use this opportunity to speak up for all the residents who are going to be cold in their homes this year. The consultation started on December 9th and it runs until March. So this isn't something that officers need to do over the holidays, but I do think it's something that we need to look at in January and make sure that we have a very strong response to this consultation. I wish that this had been done before the cut was announced, and because I think that that would have been a more accountable and democratic way to do it. But I welcome the fact that there will be an opportunity now for people across our district and across the north to respond to what the executive and the DFC minister put through earlier this year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Guy?
Sorry, I was thinking GSP. 505, am I ahead of myself? GSP minutes? No, sorry, Meryl, I'll come back on it. I'm ahead of myself.
Thank
Get
you.
it ready, nobody nodded, eh?
Okay, members, moving on to agenda item 8, confirmation of the open minutes of the reconvened meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Thursday, 21st November 2024, pages 25 to 34 for accuracy. Thank you, Alderman Montgomery. Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Any matters arising? None. Thank you. Okay, moving on. A confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Monday, 2nd December 2024, pages 35 to 38 for accuracy. That's where you're coming in.
It was the actual one. I was right. No, I was just, as there's that many minutes on there, I was a bit confused at the last. It was on C505, if I could still come in there, just to ask a question. Yeah, thank you. And it's C505-24. And I'd just like to, has the Chief Executive received a request from the Office of the NAC to meet with council officers to discuss attendance at the national meetings?
Sorry, through you, Mayor, was just looking back to find out 505. I didn't quite catch. Chief Executive received correspondence asking what?
Just had the request to discuss attendance at the national meetings.
I don't think I have. Ellen, have you received anything? No, not that I'm aware of. There may be something in the inbox that I've overlooked, but hasn't been brought to my attention yet. No.
Okay, so agenda item 10, confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Monday, 2nd December 2024, pages 35 to 38 for accuracy. Thank you. Alderman McMorris, is it stands? Yeah, happy? Thank you. Any matters arising? No. Moving on, adoption of the open minutes of the following committees: bi-monthly Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee held on Monday, 18th November 2024, pages 39 to 44 for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor Devine. Any second? Thank you, Alderman Guy. Any matters arising? None. Okay, moving on, monthly Business and Culture Committee held on Tuesday, 19th November 2024, pages 45 to 60 for accuracy. Business and Culture members? Thank you. And Councillor Bart, any matters arising? None? Thank you. Moving on, monthly governance and strategic planning committee held on Tuesday, 26 November 2024, pages 61 to 74 for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Thank you, Mark Morris. Any matters arising? Okay, Duffy, Sandra?
Margaret Mayor, and just GSP 226/24. And I just want to use that opportunity to raise the task force action plan launch that took place on Monday. It ties neatly in there in terms of our overall ambitions for this council area. I think that we are well on record around our ambitions around the university, and I have to say that the launch on Monday was a hugely positive and exciting opportunity for us as a city and district. We, as Stephen Kelly has said, the chair of the task force, that we know the way. We have discussed the way for a very long time, but now this is the how. And I think that what the task force has done is make it stick, as Stephen had outlined, that they wanted to make it sticky. The ambitions within the action plan are huge in terms of the 10,000 students, the £700 million public and private sector investment into the city and district, 50 new courses and 3,600 new residential units with 18 capital projects and in total 28 asks across council and different departments. I think that that is absolutely fantastic to see the action plan in place, to see the people that were there on Monday welcoming the action plan and seeing how we can actually take that forward. I want to put on record our thanks as a council to the task force who have worked incredibly hard and really put their shoulder to the wheel to pull this together, and a lot of really local people who have a huge interest in the city and district came together to bring this forward. But also need to put on record our thanks to the leadership of the Minister for Economy, Conor Murphy, who put this whole thing in train, and we see the difference that can be made with real leadership and real focus on the Northwest, focus on Derry and focus on the university here at Magee and what we can start seeing being achieved. Because even though it is an action plan, it is already well on its way, and Stephen Kelly, the chair of the task force, was very clear that this is not the beginning. We have already begun and we've already seen some outcomes come from it. So I want to put on record my thanks to the task force and my thanks to the Minister for Economy for putting a focus on this. I would recommend to the chamber, anybody that wasn't there or anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to read the report, it is online. But I would at the very least say Stephen Kelly was on the Mark Patterson show yesterday and gave a really detailed account of the action plan and the work of the task force. And you can listen back to that on BBC Sounds. Couldn't remember it. But the interview was fantastic, and I certainly will be listening to it again. I've shared it on social media, and when you listen to it, you clearly see the passion from Stephen himself and the work of the task force. So I would recommend that we put on record our thanks to the task force and our thanks to the Minister as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Tierney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Duffy. I think it is important that we discuss the publication of the task force report. At the time that the Minister announced that he was setting up the task force, I had no issue welcoming it. And I also today have no issue in welcoming the report that was published only a few days ago. And as Sandra has said, Stephen Kelly very clearly, in my view, outlined the why, and the report is the how. And I think that that's very important. What I think the report is the roadmap to how we expand the university across Derry, but across the Northwest, and the importance of expanding the university across the Northwest. And I think, if we're going to be honest, the task force and the report was mainly written by local people. And I think that that's good. I think when you talk about the how and the why, I think it's important that local people do have an input. And on behalf of the SDLP, I would like to thank Stephen Kelly and his colleagues in the task force for the work that they have done. I understand that their interim report was debated by the executive only a few weeks ago, and hopefully we'll see some of the outworkings of that coming very shortly. I have read the report, and I know Councillor Duffy has told us all where to go and find it and where to listen to the media reports and all of that. I have read it. And I think it's important when you're talking about the why and the how that this does not come across any resistance. Because as I've already pointed out, and Councillor Duffy has pointed out also, this has mainly been written and led by local people. But in the report, it points out where the task force came up against resistance from government departments in Belfast. And whilst that is not helpful in any way, and I don't want to pour cold water over the task force report, because I think it's a good report, I think it's a good plan. But I think what's in it and how we get there was already clearly pointed out by people across the city. If we're going to be honest, anybody remember the one plan? It was all there. Maybe not to the exact detail is there now, but we all knew the reasons why we had to expand the university and the importance of expanding the university. And we all know the reasons why it didn't, if we're being honest. And it didn't, and it wasn't expanded. And this has been pointed out by Sinn Féin representatives before the last Assembly election. It wasn't expanded. It wasn't given the concentration because there wasn't, in their words, the right person driving it at the Department for the Economy. They're saying there is now, and that's great if there is. But we need to make sure that there is no blockages in Belfast, because that's what happened for decades. And that's the reality. It's in the task force report. That's not me saying that. It's in the report which the task force have produced. So we, along with the task force, along with all of the partners across the Northwest, need to do whatever we can. If that includes the Minister for the Economy, then that's great. But we need to do whatever we can to ensure that the resistance, that the expansion of the university in this city received over many years is not received any further, and that the task force report is welcomed by the department, is welcomed by the executive, and is more importantly, Madam Mayor, is funded and supported, because that's the bottom line. I do genuinely look forward to the day that we can come on here and say, we have now reached 10,000 students, and where do we go next? I genuinely do. And I wholeheartedly say, I don't want to be negative for negative's sake, and I don't want to pull cold water on the report. But the reality is the reality. We already knew how and why we needed to expand the university. We now know very clearly, and it's pointed out in the task force report, why it hasn't been expanded. And that's because of resistance within government departments, and that can't be allowed to happen. And we all, this council, all the strategic partners across the Northwest, the Minister, everybody needs to come together to fight that resistance and to ensure that the university is properly resourced and properly funded. But on behalf of the SDLP, I send our genuine thanks to everybody who was involved in the task force report, and I look forward to seeing the implementation of it very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Heaney.
It's on a different issue, Mayor, so I don't know if there's other speakers want to come on this
Right.
one for.
Okay, I'll come to you then after. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't sure I was getting called on. Yeah, look, I agree. I think that the task force report is very, very ambitious, and it's no less what this city deserves. We've been waiting on an ambitious report like this for 60 years. This should have happened a long time ago, but it didn't, and we all know the reasons why. So I certainly welcome that there is such an ambitious plan to develop and expand higher education here for Derry and for the entire Northwest. I think that I agree with the task force as well when they said they've put together an ambitious plan. Now that needs to be funded, and we need Stormont to actually step up and make sure that the hundreds of millions that it's going to cost is actually found, because this is an absolute priority for the people of Derry and for the people of this council area and for the people of the Northwest, and I would argue for people right across this island to see the issue of university expansion addressed here. I think that this has happened because It's not Ulster University that is dictating the pace of what happens or what the plans are. As we know, Ulster University has never taken direction from government, and they're being forced to take direction from government right now. This is really the first time that Ulster University is being pressed to actually go along with a plan for a proper development for a university here. The Vice-Chancellor told us this himself. He says, we don't take direction from government, we make all our plans ourselves, and that's why we've ended up in the situation that we are in. So I think that we have to, as a council and make sure that Stormont continues to give direction to this plan and direction to Ulster University. I think we still have a large role to play. And I also agree that any resistance that exists inside departments in Stormont needs to be pushed back on. There's too much at stake here. So I think that this is positive. I also think that I welcome the fact that the task force chair, Stephen Kelly, did talk about in his interview the issue of HMOs and the impact that an expanded university is going to have on residents right around Magee. I think that this is something that people will know. Some members have attended the very large meetings where people in the areas around Magee have expressed their concerns about changes to their area and a feeling of they have no power and no say. So I think it's important that this is being acknowledged and that residents are very eager to make sure that something happens in regard to that. And that's an important issue. I think there's a few other things as well. Look, I think that the Vice-Chancellor, Paul Bartholomew, should desist from his campaign of trying to increase student fees, which potentially might price out students from Derry and the Northwest from being able to attend an expanded Magee. I don't think that this is helpful at all, and I think he needs to be pushed back in this. And I think as a council, we are on record opposing tuition hikes, and I think that this is a serious problem, that he is trying to link an expanded university to the need for increased university fees. Not at all. It does not need to happen, and it isn't part of the task force proposals either. And I also think that we should call on Ulster University to drop its opposition to an independent oversight body that would be carried on into the future. But there's many good things that are in the task force report, and now I think we have to try to push forward to make sure it's delivered on, to meet the ambition of Derry and to meet the needs of our young people and the needs of the entire region right across here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. I, like some of the previous speakers, I welcome this report, and people have highlighted the why. And I think the why has been well established for over 60 years of the deprivation that we have suffered, the discrimination we have suffered, and the money and resources going to Belfast. We've seen it. This report brings it to the fore. And while it is ambitious, we deserve it to be ambitious. We've waited long enough. On the downside, there is many variables within this report. What is lacking in general, and the report's highlighted, is willingness. We need the willingness to deliver this plan. And unfortunately, it's absent. And we need to go to the Belfast bloc. If they're not willing to come forward, they need to be dragged to the table. We have seen in the past ministers appearing in this city with cheques and promises, and after a short period, those cheques bounced. They bounced all over the place, and they didn't deliver. So I would be skeptical when I hear ministers making promises without the action of delivery. And that's what's missing. But I congratulate the task force on bringing it forward. And we, as a council, need to drive it to ensure it's delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Jackson?
And I just wanted to pick up on some of the, I suppose, the context of the task force meeting on Monday. I think was the chair at the time, Wendy Austin, referenced to the task force and didn't want to dwell on 60 years and the scars that have been borne by the people of Derry around 60 years of discrimination or blockages or frustration, but looking forward at what is undoubtedly massive potential. We've identified the expansion of McGee as the single most economic driver for the entire Northwest. That's not only going to create, which Conor Murphy has alluded to, 4,600 well-paid jobs. That aside from the student numbers, but it will create a healthier city, a healthier district, a healthier Northwest region, because there's the security of the workforce going on the Western Health and Social Care Trust. And that is glaringly obvious when you see the state of our health care at this minute in time, with staff shortages, not only within the trust, but within our GP services. So there's a huge need for the expansion of the university. They drive economic growth, but they deliver care, facilities and services for the people of the Northwest. But and Conor Murphy has stated that he wants to see the delivery of this plan delivered at pace, and that's something that we all want to see, and we've got the right people around the table. In relation to the task force, they push the boundaries and try and get this delivered. And I know, Mayor, yourself spoke at that launch and gave your own support on behalf of us on council to the work of the task force and the minister. But there was discussion in relation to the civil service and frustrations and barriers that are being placed. I found it really refreshing being at that event when we've had people from the task force reference work that's carrying on within the civil service. They actually, it was noted that civil servants they've never seen our civil service work the way the Department of Economy officials are working. They progress this report, and that's every single person when speaking to it as part of the task force referenced the commitment of civil servants to the delivery of the 10,000 students and more, and they facilitate the delivery of the actions as part of the task force. This is, and I know over the past number of weeks, I've been speaking to different members of the task force around different issues, and what has been referenced to me and different people that are interested in the expansion of the university, and what's been mentioned to me numerous times, is that we've got the right people in the right positions at the right time. There is huge momentum in relation to the expansion of the university. There's a huge momentum within the ministerial team and the executive to address regional imbalance. We've seen that with a number one priority around the expansion of the university. We've seen it locally with the much needed support for the airport. So we do have the right people in the positions, and they're putting their money where their mouth is in terms of delivery for the Northwest. But it would be remiss of me not to mention, because there's, speaking to numerous people, they have referenced the leadership and the support from our council team, and to the task force, and particularly our chief executive, John Kilby. There is it's been referenced to me on numerous occasions that his contribution to the task force is immense, and there's a huge recognition of the support that council's providing to the expansion of the university. So we do have a focus in the Northwest where we haven't had in as long as I can remember. So and we have a very strong leadership team within our own council. We've huge ambitions. Now is the time for delivery. I know there's some that'll want to look at the negative side, voice their frustrations and sound angry. I would a glass half full kind of person, and I just wanted to reflect my observations around the leadership that's been demonstrated within our city and district, the leadership that's been demonstrated by government ministers, and the fact that there's a real prospect of delivery on projects that have been for far too long pipe dreams for the people of the city and district. So I just wanted to commend everybody that's played a role and continues to play a role on the positive delivery of the economy here in the Northwest. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, my glass is half empty, and there's good reasons for that glass to be half empty. This is an area that has been discriminated against for decades, for a century. Some people may describe that as a negative side. However, for many people throughout this city and district, it is the stark reality. And the proof of the pudding will not be that there's a lot of civil service working very hard behind the scenes. We've had empty promises, many empty promises. We've had a lot of false election promises on the doorsteps. The reality is that for a city this size in the island of Ireland, they have no proper, meaningful university is an absolute disgrace. And we should not be congratulating ourselves or talking this up. People in the city are angry that we don't have, I've been at 2 graduation services within the last 2 years. One of them was in Liverpool, and in the street I was on in Liverpool, there was that many Derry accents in it. You would have thought you were in Sheepkey Street. And more recently, I was in Galway, where there was thousands. There was a full week of graduation, and there was people from all parts of this island, all parts of the neighbouring island. And as far when I stopped to ask somebody for directions, it was a whole Italian family who'd come over to see one of their relatives. Thousands upon people, and what that brought into that economy, I couldn't calculate it. For a city this size, we deserve and should have a meaningful university that will should be 20,000 students, should be no reason why we don't have what Galway has, and all the economic benefits that brings for jobs, employment, for hotels, for local businesses. But again, for many people in the city and district, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Alderman Hussain.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm probably the only person in the chamber who was doing GCSEs when Coleraine was set up many years ago. And that was a slap in the teeth to the people and to the council of Londonderry at the time. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And remember, I think, if I'm correct, at that time it was probably a unionist-dominated council, and it was a unionist-dominated government that slapped this area in the teeth. Mention has been made of the university itself, and I think praise has to go to the admin staff, etc., of McGee campus, who have pushed this within their own university and ensured that McGee was able to grow slowly to a point where it's seeking to expand exponentially. And we look forward to that happening. I welcome the fact that there's a change in the Belfast attitude, or hopefully there's a change in the Belfast attitude, which is going to ensure that university provision will be of the level that it should be in this part of Northern Ireland. Councillor Donnelly referred there to students in Liverpool. My own two children went to Liverpool, and I know exactly what he's talking about. I think that they met more people in Castleberg in Liverpool at university than they did maybe meet in their own town. I think one thing we've got to be careful about going forward is the student intake, and to ensure that the ethos of the university will be such that it encourages all of our potential young people to consider McGee as a location. There's no doubt for many going across to, in my own case, the eldest son went to Edinburgh, the others went to Liverpool, but going across the water is a bigger option for many from the unionist tradition, and that cannot be ignored. And it is something that the university must take on board going forward to ensure that it is somewhere that is welcoming to all students, and that the student population will be reflective of the broader population of our area going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussain. Okay, is it on the same issue? No, Councillor Henny.
Was the issue I notified you about earlier? Just
Okay, I'll bring you in. I just want to make a comment because I was there also. And I wasn't here 60 years ago. I'm only here 15 years ago. And I have seen the way this conversation has been moving forward. And I have to say, when Councillor Gallagher alluded about the willingness, that is what I saw in that room, that there is a shift in mind, there is a shift in the focus now when the discussion is about the expansion. The words that are being used now, which is different from before, is the word that has been introduced, at least 10,000 students, which that to me says that is not what the target number is. That is where we want to be by 2032 and move forward from there. Obviously, you have been waiting for a very long time, but I am an optimist and I am saying this is now the time for delivery. I have seen a united front on this issue now more than ever before. And I just want to ask members to be positive and to support the task force, to support these council decisions that we have already made, to united, to really support the implementation of that plan. The minister himself alluded on looking for financial support. And I concluded my speech by saying that good leadership requires people to be bold, to be daring, and to lead differently. And I do see that in action now. Thank you, members. Councillor Hennig.
Mayor, I just make one comment before you finish. And it's
Good,
because
Councillor
of this issue. Yeah, sorry, I thought you had seen me. I just want to say around progress. 2 years ago, I was the mayor and we couldn't get a meeting with the Minister for Economy to discuss the expansion of McGee. 2 years on, we have a Minister for Economy who is in place for 1 year at this stage, and we now have a pathway around the expansion of the university. We have a clear action plan on how we take this forward, and it's the first time in my lifetime, and I'm not 60, that I can see a clear way that we can deliver for this city and district and for everybody who lives in it. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Hennig.
okay, thank you, Mayor. GSP 220/24. We did deputation in from NI Water. They discussed the hold up at the housing development at H2. I had asked a number of questions at that I don't feel I got an answer to. They were just out of the money that is available, the 100 million. Is the Northwest being prioritised, and are the 2 pumping stations included in that? And thirdly, just about the capacity of the current H2 site, is there the scope? Do you have any development? Could 100 houses be built with the current capacity? So I don't feel I got an answer to any of those, and I would appreciate and propose that this council writes to repeat those questions to NI Water and seek answers. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haney. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's on the same agenda item as Councillor Heaney. And we did have an important discussion with NI Water representatives, particularly about the housing crisis here in Derry and the hold up in terms of getting houses connected to the sewage infrastructure. And what came out of that meeting, I don't think was positive. I left that meeting with my glass pretty empty, to be quite honest. And since that meeting happened, I'm sure everybody will know that the DFC Minister announced the Stormont Executive's housing supply strategy for the next 15 years. And again, on paper, it is a very, very ambitious strategy to build 100,000 houses over the next 15 years. But there's some issues that need to be addressed. There's no funding attached to this. There's no any real plans to take this forward. And the announcement of this strategy is not going to help the nearly 50,000 families and applicants that are trapped right now on the housing waiting list. There's no plan to drive up house building and social housing building over the next couple of years. The announcement of this plan is not going to make any difference this winter to the more than 6,000 families that are trapped on the housing waiting list here in Derry and Strabane Council District. It's not going to make any difference to the more than 5,000 children that are trapped in temporary accommodation. So when you're talking about being positive, I'm not going to support a government that is failing thousands and thousands and thousands of people across this district because they have refused to build houses for years and because they went along with a disastrous privatisation of the housing executive. And this is a plan that has been around for quite a while, and now it's been announced and endorsed by the housing executive. And I've had lots of people talking to me saying, I don't see a future. I can't get a house. The lists are only getting bigger. And I've talked to people as well, and housing executive workers and all who are having to deal with people who are saying, are migrants getting a house before me? And this is misinformation and it's lies. But this is allowed to happen because we have a government that has failed to build houses. And they've now come up with a plan that doesn't have any funding for it and doesn't have any plan for the next couple of years. I believe there should be an urgent plan of a mass social housing build of thousands and thousands of houses in a short, condensed period. There's no rent regulation, which would help people stay in their houses, and there's no protections against eviction. We still haven't any action from the housing executive on the empty home strategy. So on one of the biggest issues on this island, if we don't address the housing crisis in this city, there is going to be a spillover into every other fact of life, into the university, into the Western Health and our ability to recruit staff, into people's health. And also the spread of misinformation and lies about who's getting access to housing. So I think that as much as we can celebrate the fact that there is now a plan to go forward with McGee, but it needs to be funded, I don't think we can say the same at all about housing. I think we are heading into a deeper housing crisis, and the Stormont executive are shrugging their shoulders and not coming up with a plan. So I think that we're going to have to come back to this in the new year. We've passed a motion in the council calling for urgent action, and I don't think that what the executive is doing right now is urgent at all. It looks to me like we're going to sail into a deeper crisis with people who have no power and who are not responsible for the housing crisis getting the blame for it. because of housing scarcity and because of rents that are completely out of control. So I think that this is something, and look, people have been saying to me, are we going to have to do what we did in the 1960s? Are we going to have to do that all over again? Because all we're getting from the executive is talk, talk, talk. All we're getting from the council around housing is talk, talk, talk. So people are saying to me, are we going to have to take to the streets again? Because that's the way housing, you know, the issue of housing was forced in the 1960s and the 1970s. It wasn't until people went onto the streets, and a lot of people are feeling like that's the only way their voice is going to be heard at this point. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. I think when it comes to council, it's an unfair comment because we're not responsible for building houses. We are advocating and facilitating conversations on that. But I take the point you're making. Councillor Farrell?
Just to point out, it's not my comment, it's comments that are made to me about the role of the council. So just for clarification.
Our role is not to build houses, though, as a council, is to advocate and campaign for that and facilitate. Thank you, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would just like to touch on Councillor Heaney's comments and Councillor Harkin's comments as well. We were all at governance and strategic planning when representatives from NI Water were in here, and I think everybody was concerned about the lack of investment over the years in this council area from NI Water and the impact that was having on housing development across the city and district. I think we all know there's over 6,000 people on the waiting list. We all know that there are 5,500 homes that cannot be constructed because of the prolonged failure of NI Water to invest in infrastructure, much needed infrastructure across the city and district. We all asked the question about the funding that is required for the wastewater infrastructure. The feedback we got was that it hasn't been approved, it hasn't been prioritised. It's in the mix with a lot of competing priorities across the entire portfolio of NI Water. We think that needs to change. You know, to build these houses, to give homes to people on the waiting list and temporary accommodation, houses need to be built. But to allow that, NI Water needs to get the infrastructure in place. So at the minute, that's not happening. We hope there's going to be movement in the new year. I think we should revisit this again in the new year. We should keep a very, very close eye on it. In terms of the housing supply strategy, we're glad it's published. It would be great if there was a funding strategy that accompanied that. We had the Northern Ireland Housing Executive in the previous month, and the capital budget for social housing across the north that was agreed in the budget was sufficient to build 400 houses a year. There has been more money that's come from monitoring rounds, which has increased that, but the basic budget for social housing across the north is enough to build 400 houses. The Housing Executive already told us for the next 5 years they need to build 800 houses a year in this council area. So are we going to take up double the entire budget for the north? This needs a funding strategy. The executive needs to invest in social housing. As Councillor Harkin has said, you know, there are so many impacts across this city and district, across the north. The executive needs to get real. It needs to recognise that housing is one of the biggest issues in this city. We're all contacting on a daily basis by people, and you know, the reality is when somebody says, "Gee, when am I going to get housed?" You can't give them an answer because the list changes on a daily basis, circumstances change on a daily basis. There's people contacting me about Buncrana Road, when they're going to be built, and I go, they're not even started, they cannot start, and it's so disheartening, it's so frustrating for people. Government need to step up, they need to fund housing properly, and they need to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Jackson?
And I suppose just reflecting, and I know at the committee, NI Water did point out the pressures, but they also did make a commitment that they would be keen to work at solutions. And I think we do need to tease out where the capacity is. We need to find out, and follow up on some of the questions that have been asked. But there was a clear commitment that that there is workarounds. There's that stormwater separation schemes that can free up capacity in some areas, and that there are plans to deliver homes, and there's plans maybe more medium term to implement those pumping stations that are going to unlock huge swathes of lands. But I think it goes without saying, we're all inundated by requests for support. They support people with housing. The vast majority of us actually support people with housing and help them through their pathway to get homes. But and we should be advocating and shouting whenever there are budget constraints. We need to make our voice heard and lobby and highlight the need for investment here in the Northwest. That's undoubted, and I know both MLAs do that on a regular basis. But in respect for our own jobs and our own responsibilities here within council, no, we're not completely exempt from it all. We do know that there's a role within council. They help shape or get adequate permissions to deliver homes. And I know a lot of what Councillor Harkin said, around urgent action, the need for the delivery and support to 6,000 people. That's something that we've been saying for many years. But some within this chamber argued against an enabling type approach, the planning reform. Some people within this chamber argued against it. Now's not the time for us to have a more streamlined planning system. We need to have more regulation, more red tape, more delays to getting approvals, more delays in getting social homes built for people. So I hopefully, from what I'm hearing, is that Councillor Harkin and others have maybe had a road to Damascus moment and have changed their ways. But I'll believe that when I see it. But we remain steadfast that we want to see delivery, we want to see development, we want to see this city and district grow. We want to deliver for people. And I hopefully, in another glass half full moment, that hopefully there's others within this chamber are going to come on board and support us in that regard. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Cusack.
Thank you. I worked in housing, as everybody knows, and there's victims on both sides. There's the victims of the people who cannot get housed and are housing stress and are experiencing terrible situations every single day. And then there's the victims, the people who actually work in housing, who are on the front line, who are under incredible stress and strain, physical and mental stress that you would not believe. And I've worked beside them and I've seen people crumble. I've seen people go off on the sick. I've seen them in tears. I've seen them physically attacked, and I've seen them basically not able to function, go off in the long-term sick and never come back. And these are the people who we're feeling also. Now, recently, I've also seen on social media the abuse that they're getting. They're getting named, shamed from people who can hide behind anonymity. They can remain nameless, but they can tear down a person's character, name, simply because they're frustrated at their situation and blaming it on the person who cannot give them what they do not have to give. So therefore, we have to look and we have to protect those people as well, working in that section. I've seen them be social workers. I've seen them be therapists. I've seen them be mental health advocates. I've seen them be best friends, family. I've seen them taking money out of their own pockets, taking food out of their own houses and helping people wherever they can. These are good people. You do not go into that job for the money. You do not go into that job for the prestige. You go into that job because you're trying to help people. Every single day they've tried to help people. They are good people. And simply because you're angry, you're frustrated at what the government or Stormont cannot deliver is not their fault. So I'd ask people out there, if anybody's listening, please, please put yourself in their shoes. It would make their life a hell of a lot easier if they could give you what you're looking for. If they cannot, there's a reason why they cannot. So please bear in mind, and my solidarity to them every single day. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Corrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in. We'll make a declaration of interest in regards to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive, but again, comments have been well made and well rehearsed here, and in particular, comments there from Councillor Cusack there. We've been in through Waterloo Place and up in Ballymena at the various offices, and the pressure that the staff have to deal with in regards to that. You know, they do their very best to help people, but it is such a stressful job, and you know, it's how they stick that job at something. And I mean, there's a lot of burnout. There definitely is in those positions, you know, when they are doing their level best to assist people. And you have the people are on hardship, and they are continually contacting the officers in regards to that roads, and there's a continual daily contact. And that's what they can do with such limited resources. And the comments are well rehearsed here in regards to we are in great need of additional homes to be built, and the difficulties, of course, with NI Water and the infrastructure there for that. So there is those situations. At small, as I say, just reflecting on the comments from Councillor Farrell there, there's been a slight increase, not the level that's needed in regards, and he's right, it was 400 homes was effectively the first figure from the initial budget when it came out, looking for effectively the funds for in the region of 2,000 homes. Now it's got to maybe the region of 1,400 homes, but again, it's very small, it's nowhere near where we need to, but hopefully there can be development. But I know that the Housing Executive are working hard, and Housing Executive Grania Long was here to give members an opportunity to question her, and she will field the question. It may not be the answer you want, but she's not afraid to come and take the flak. But again, I am content that a strategy has been released. Yes, we need the funding for that as well, but we are seeking to be ambitious because we do realise there's a great need for homes. And again, one of the factors as well, it really needs to be mixed development. The social homes on their own aren't the best idea. We need those mixed developments there of private and social together. So we need that element of things as well. But no, other than that, Mayor, I again concur with a lot of the comments there, and I know the topic is very heartfelt because all the members are getting this in the neck on a daily basis. But thank you, Mayor, for that, man.
Thank you, Alderman Corrigan. Alderman Middleton online.
Mayor, thank you so much for allowing me in. I don't want to throw the whole meeting into disarray, but I think it's my WebEx. I actually wrote that comment when Councillor Tierney was speaking regarding the task force, and I just wanted to welcome the McGee task force for the release of it all, and to welcome it and to thank everybody who had worked hard on it. So it wasn't on this issue, but my WebEx seems to be lagging terribly in the comments section there. When I was trying to comment, it wouldn't go at all. So, but that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Sorry about that. I didn't see Chrissy, you couldn't come in.
You're okay. She's sitting over here in the corner. Just want a second. Councillor Haney's proposal.
Oh, thank you. Do we have the proposal? Where is it? Where is it? Where's the proposal?
Sorry,
Where's the proposal? Can I hear it?
I proposed that we send a letter to NI Water. I read out a number of questions that I didn't get an answer to at GSP, and it proposed to be right. Ask them again. Is that okay?
That's okay. Thank you. I think that was taken as given. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Donnelly?
Mayor.
But Mayor, I'm a bit confused with some of the attitudes here today. Councillor Jackson is attempting to lay the blame of the housing crisis at some councillors in here and connection with planning. Absolutely bizarre. In the 26 counties, the Free State version of Councillor Jackson's party lays the blame firmly where it should be, and that's the government. But yet, in this part of the island, in this jurisdiction, he blames individual councillors and the planning system. And that gives you an indication of the attitude of Sinn Féin. Regards yourself, Mayor, your a la carte attitude to what's good from Stormont and what's bad. In the previous conversation, you were lauding the university and how great, but then you were very quick to distance yourself from responsibility for housing and Stormont. Mayor, the people in this chamber are the same people, the same parties that is running the Stormont administration. You can't separate that. So when Councillor Harkin talks about people and direct action and that in these chambers being occupied as they were before, then there's a very, very clear link. The people in here are the people who are the face of Stormont. You cannot pick and choose. I don't have a half empty glass in this. There is no glass, it's smashed. If you're talking to people who've been put out of their temporary accommodation because there's a party, Halloween party going on outside, where they have to lift their kids, get out of where they're staying, get moved to somewhere else that's completely, it doesn't suit their needs. They allow people to come in and use it to have a sleep after the party. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's shocking, and it's shameful. And it's the fault of those charged with govern this part of the country. Only 2 months ago, the local manager and the chief executive of the housing executive were in here. And it was mentioned, I mentioned to them, that people are being scapegoated. And that was housing executive workers and migrants. And what Councillor Cusick has referred to on social media is an absolute disgrace. People are punching down instead of punching up, and it's having a very detrimental effect on them workers, but it's nothing. It is not something that's new, but it seems to have very recently taken a sinister tone when workers, as Councillor Cusick has pointed out, they don't devise the point system, they operate the rules that are there, and a lot of people are taking their frustrations out on their housing officer. But the problem, as pointed out by Councillor Harkin, the problem lies in Stormont, because not only now, but they have never taken this serious. And I would not be surprised we get the day back where people do take to the streets, and their focus of their frustration is going to be to those in here who are charged with running this part of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first of all want to agree with Councillor Cusack around the treatment of some housing executive staff. I too have seen it on social media. I and other members of my party and this group of the SDLP in this council deal and work with those housing advisors numerous times a day on different housing cases. And my experience of them is that they will go out of their way to try and help you where they can. But it's quite difficult for them when they're working against a system that is very strict and there's no movement in at all. And I think there needs to be an understanding of that with a wider public. I look forward to the day that we're looking and we're welcoming in a review of that system, because I don't think it's a model of best practice by any stretch of the imagination. So I want to send our solidarity to the housing executive staff, but also the people who are waiting in a house, because it's incredibly difficult and stressful time for them as well. Councillor Donnelly there said that he was confused by some of the comments, and his comments are the ones that have confused me, particularly towards yourself, Madam Mayor. I think it's okay to welcome something that may appear positive, but to also criticise something which is negative. And I think that that's what you've done. And I don't think that should be questioned. I think that's called constructive opposition. I think that's what it's called. And I think people need to understand that. It is okay to welcome something which has a better impact for people across this district, and to call out something which is hindering people across this district as well. Madam Mayor, when I indicated to speak, was only a very quick comment that I wanted to make, and it was just to tie on to the back of Councillor Heaney's letter to NI Water around I have no issue with the questions, but I do believe that the land issue around one of the pumping stations may have moved on since the NI Water's visit to the committee. And I wonder if Councillor Heaney is agreeable, could we include in the letter asking NI Water for an updated position on those pumping stations? Because I think that would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. And thank you, Councillor Donnelly, for your comments. As anybody knows, if something is good, I will bump it up. If it is not, I will call it out. Thank you. Okay, moving on. I think we've concluded that conversation now. Moving on, adoption of the...
Before we move on, is my book going to be added on that letter?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was noted. Thank you. Councillor... Right, moving on. Item D, monthly planning committee held on Wednesday, 27 November 2024, pages 75 to 86 for accuracy. Thank you. Seconded, thank you very much. Any matters arising? Councillor McHugh?
P180/24 regarding the deferred application. That planning application was deferred at December's planning committee, and it's an application for the redevelopment of Mitchell Park and Castleberg under the Levelling Up Fund. And I know that this application has been, it's been delayed several times during the planning process in terms of officers having to overcome objections, and that's well and good. That's part of the planning process. Unfortunately, it was delayed again in December because of late information regarding an inaccurate drawing. And it's important to understand that the planning committee and planning officers and indeed the general public have accurate information. So I have no problem with that. But I've learned recently that now, with this application being deferred to supposedly the first meeting in the second week of January, that apparently now that meeting won't be able to consider any planning applications due to some legal consideration that the planning officers have to consult on. So I'm just recording my disappointment that this application will again be deferred. Hopefully it will be to the end of January and not any longer. It's disappointing on several fronts. It represents a multi-million-pound investment into the community of Castleberg as part of the Levelling Up Fund. And I just think it's important that I register my frustration. And indeed, I think I speak on behalf of everybody who's waiting on this application to come before the planning committee for a decision. And I think that includes not only the sports clubs who are patiently waiting, but also our own council officers who have worked so hard and overcame so many obstacles to hopefully get this planning application to committee for a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh. Bring Karen just for an update.
Through you, Chair, members, we have scheduled a special planning committee in January in order to bring forward relevant items, and we believe that item will be included on the special committee.
Happy with that? Alderman Kerrigan?
Different item, Mayor, is that all right? Yeah. Just LA 11 2023 18040 or O. That I voted against that one. It's just point of accuracy. That wasn't a unanimous vote.
There was a point that there was no unanimous vote. So you want clarity or?
No, Mayor, I had voted against. It was a wee thing. The minutes had already went out and it had to be rectified here. Just a point of accuracy. I'd voted against that application. Everybody else voted for it, but I was against it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, members, moving on. Item E, monthly business and culture committee held on Tuesday, 3rd December 2024, pages 87 to 92 for accuracy. Business and culture members. Thank you for all. Thank you, Alderman Guy. Any matters arising? Alderman Jose.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 208, the All-Ireland Piping Competition. I just want to record specific thanks to our, sorry, was it me you called there? Oh, that's okay. I wasn't sure. I just want to record specific thanks to our events team, because some members in the chamber will know that this is something that I have been engaging with our events team on for quite a few years. And I want to pay particular tribute to Jacqueline for the work that she has undertaken in this. I know that introductions to the chair of the Royal Scottish Pipe Band Association, who lives in our council area, in fact, at Castle Ergman, and he was keen that this would happen. So it's through that the kernel of the idea was established and brought forward. I'm glad that others were able to come on board at MLA level, but let's remember that the seeds of this were within council, that they brought this particular event, the potential for this particular event forward. I further welcome the plans from the association, and indeed hopefully in combination with our events team, that there will be satellite events related to this throughout the entire council district. And I look forward to a report, presumably coming into Business and Culture, with regard to how the whole of this exciting event will be taken forward for the benefit not just of Londonderry, the city, but of the entire district, with the satellite events that are planned around it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Jose. Any other matters arising? No. Thank you. Members, moving forward, monthly Environment and Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday, 4th December 2024, pages 93 to 100. Thank you, Alderman Carrigan. Thank you, Fleming. Any matters arising? No. Thanks, members. Moving on, monthly Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, 5th December 2024, pages 101 to 1223. Thank you, Mark Morris. Anybody else? Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any matters arising? Alderman Mark Morris.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. It's just HC 323/24. It's in regards to child rights. I was at the Political Champions meeting last Thursday, and it was brought up, we're looking to go forward to UNICEF, and one of the objectives that we have is to have 70% of all councillors trained in child rights training. And we've put out training a few times now, and it was kind of disappointing to see that they have approximately 17% through with a need for 70%. So I just want to put out that basically if people can do that training, they have slimlined it and it's in-house now. So there's no reason, there's no reason why people can't do that training, just to make an concerted effort to try and push that forward. You know, we're very low, 17%. I have another just wee issue that I just wanted to, it was in regards to HC 309/24. I probably think that there's probably nobody here to answer the query, but it was in regard to the XL billies and basically the need for exemption certificates to be got by dog owners by the 31st of December. We basically were given a report that out of 19 that is licensed in our district, only 6 of them had actually got exemption certificates up to that date. And I'm just conscious we're kind of running out of time here. So, you know, these dogs could potentially be destroyed if they don't get the exemption papers, you know. So I think that we need to put something out in social media or something to kind of drive that forward. But I was just wondering, is there any further uptick in that? Is it?
Sorry, through you, Mayor. There has been a fair wee bit put on social media. We will check. I don't know if Seamus Donaghy is online. I don't think he is. But we'll check with him.
I get the revised figures done because I'm just conscious that there's a very small uptick for the exemption certificate. So.
Thank you.
And apologies, I don't really do social media too well.
It's
Thank
okay.
you.
It's definitely, there's a lot of information on social media shared through the council page for that. So maybe it's just to remind again the public of the importance of ensuring that they get the avail of that information. Okay, members, I have Councillor Boggs.
I'll go to Vera, and just to pick up on HC 318/24 in relation to the proposal that was made by Councillor Harkin. I think it's just important to reiterate the positive story that came from the executive on the day of Health and Communities, that a 5% pay raise and a one-off payment of £1,500 has been offered to NI Water, and that trade unions or NI Water employees and the trade unions have accepted it. You know, it's imperative that the public sector pay workers are paid fairly, so that's a positive announcement, particularly in the mouth of Christmas to avert strike action. And just in that same vein, I don't think it is necessary any longer to send that proposal, but maybe Councillor Harkin has different thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Councillor Harkin.
On that item, Mayor, thank you to Councillor Boggs for raising it, and I am glad that the NI Water workers are getting the pay that they've been owed for 21 months. And I found it very frustrating that people were thanking the Minister for sorting this out. I think that the people who sorted this out were the water workers who threatened to strike, and it's a disgrace that they were forced to have to do that. And while we may not need to send that motion now, we could easily replace it with one to support the teachers, who, as people will have seen, voted over 90% for industrial action. And it's disgraceful again that another group of public servants who we know are underpaid, who are overextended in terms of their jobs, that are getting more difficult in schools that are not properly funded, are being forced to strike. Not only is it impacting them, but it's going to impact the children as well. And the parents. So while it's good that the water workers got their money sorted out because they threatened to strike, now we have teachers having to do the same thing. And you know, I've had mixed responses to the minister's, the health minister's plan to basically split the pay parity issue with a payment of 10 months and then 2 months later. Some unions are supporting it. Others don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good enough. So look, I think that the Stormont executive is failing our public sector workers, forcing them to threaten to strike, one group after another, and we're going to see more of this next year. And I think, you know, Starmer's broken one promise after another since he's got in, but the Stormont executive is really no different.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Have I left anybody else out? No? Okay, moving on to Special Health and Community Committee held on Wednesday, 11 December 2024, pages 123 to 134. Thank you, Councillor Boyle.
A matter of accuracy, just Mayor, and it's probably a bit of pedantry, but in the attendance record there, you'll see that I'm down as present as a member of the committee, but also present as a non-member of the committee. So maybe that could be amended to reflect that I am actually a member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Any other matters arising? Thank you, Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, SHC 29/24, offering condolences to Kenny McFarlane. Chair, I'd like to be associated with that. Kenny McFarlane, despite having completely opposing ideologies from myself and politics, was an avid watcher and listener of what went on in this council. And it wouldn't be unusual to get a phone call from Kenny after a meeting or before a meeting regarding a particular issue. And despite the differences, I found him somebody who that you could talk to, or you could have a genuine conversation. So I would like to be associated. I've met Kenny through Northwest Cultural Partnership and Newgate, so we just want to be associated with. And if you would allow me, Mayor, I would also attended a function in here for the late Paddy Tyre that you were at, and I would like that event was in. Paddy is a well-known, well-loved person, heavily involved in the music industry in the city, and the turnout to the event in here was testament to how popular and and a guy was. And I would like to see that if you would, it raised, that event raised a lot of money for Fall Down Syndrome and the Bud Club, and I would ask Mayor if you would write a letter to Paddy Tyre's wife and family, offering our condolences to. Thank you.
Certainly, Councillor Donnelly, thank you for raising both. I attended the Cultural Partnership event the day that Kenny left us, and it was evident from the team, the work that Kenny has done for the community is remarkable, and it is a big loss. And I was actually given by one of our council officers a comment that he one time identified an error that nobody had identified in a report here in council, and he used to watch every single council committee meeting or full council meeting. So it's a big loss for us, and I will certainly be writing to the family. On Paddy Tyre, I felt like it was my own loss because he left the day he came to see me, and I've been with the family since then, and I'm more than happy to write another letter, no problem at all. Okay. Any other matters? Alderman Guy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to echo the comments made by yourself and Councillor Donnelly about Kenny McFarland, sadly missed within the unionist community. The man was, he was a gentleman, but he was also someone who basically, he was a colossus within the community, unionist community. He basically was very forward thinking, and he worked to achieve good relationships right across the both communities with understanding, and all our communities as well. And Gary will test on for that there himself. Like, they may have had different political views, but they worked well together, and Kenny would have worked with anybody that came through, and I know that he done a lot, and we always used to comment about how boring a life he lived whenever he had to listen to all the council meetings, but he would always give you a ring when you were coming in, listen, this is coming up or whatever, and he always kept us on his toes. So my deepest condolences to all his family and friends on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. Okay, members, moving on to H. That's where we were. No. We just completed H, isn't it? All right. Moving on to confidential